They have put you in that. They've said that you are dangerous to them, that your rhetoric is dangerous. What do you make of this?
I am the danger. We are the danger. And I need them to understand this. We're dangerous to the corporate bottom line. We're dangerous to profit seekers. And that's the only thing that our politicians and many in the media care about right now. So in some respects, they are correct. The danger is what might happen to profit seekers who want to paywall healthcare. And I don't mean like, divine retribution or punishment of any sort. I mean the worst punishment of all, where they can no longer justify multi-million-dollar salaries. I am a danger to those who seek profit and put the interests of profit over the interests of people. And that's precisely the reason why they attack people like myself.
My next guest has a way of enraging, just enraging, both centrist Democrats and right-wingers, particularly those on Fox, who are like obsessed with him. Even the New York Times made time to profile him, of course, focusing on Charlie Kirk, and make him the latest boogeyman for the pro-Israel bipartisan crowd. Left and right have accused him of promoting extremism. Now, Hassan Piker, who is one of the leading voices that bridges young people, the digital generation, progressive politics, and culture, has a massive platform. He's got over 11.3 million combined followers, including 1.9 million on YouTube, 3.1 million on Twitch. That's why I said our Twitchies are having their moment. Okay, y'all Twitchies, this is your day. And for a lot of particularly younger people, he is becoming a primary source of political commentary on domestic and international politics, whether the Democratic Party and Fox like it or not. Now, his latest venture is sure to provoke even more outrage. Here's the first minute of his mini doc on his investigative report and trip to our next war target, Cuba.
We speak, there are 11 million people living 90 miles off the coastline of the United States of America in a Caribbean island nation known as Cuba, experiencing a severe crisis. Everyday life is being brought to a screeching halt. There are nationwide blackouts caused by a total collapse of the country's electrical grid. There's a shortage of food and medicine. They can't pump drinking water. Cuba has been starved of the most important resource to make modern life work: oil. For over 60 years, the United States has maintained a trade embargo against Cuba. Under the embargo, it's nearly impossible for foreign companies to invest and do business in Cuba while trading with the United States. For years, I've wanted to visit Cuba. I wanted to learn about the problems caused by the embargo. I wanted to see a socialist society in person. Last month, I took the opportunity to go as part of a humanitarian mission to bring aid that my government won't. I'd be accompanying Progressive International alongside hundreds of others from around the world. Activists, journalists, artists, and politicians will be coming to the island by boat and plane to deliver over 40 tons of necessary supplies, food, medicine, and medical equipment. Our first stop is Miami, Florida.
And Hassan Piker joins me now. Hey, Hassan, how are you?
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
what's going on? Can you hear me?
We got you. How are you?
Okay, perfect. Hi. Thank you for having me. That was a fantastic introduction, and I'm honored to be here. This is very exciting. It's I put myself down as dangerous radical in my title, but I guess your producers changed that, and they thought, it's better to put Twitch streamer and political commentator down there.
I didn't see dangerous radical in the. I'm going to have to talk to my producers because I would have preferred to say dangerous radical. I'm going to read you the intro. Joining me now is dangerous radical Hassan Piker, who scares the crap out of everybody left and right. Before I get to the Cuba piece, why do you suppose people are so obsessed with you? Why are you that dude that's causing all that conversation? What are you doing?
I think to explain it in the shortest way possible, I'm unbought and unbossed, and that is precisely the reason why I'm uncontrollable. I'm only accountable to my own opinion, to my own integrity, to my own audience, and that is a very frustrating phenomena that a lot of the Democratic Party has never had to deal with. For the longest time, they were the gatekeepers of appropriate conversations, and they could just cast aside voices on the sidelines that wanted more from the Democrats, that wanted a more responsive party, that wanted a party to focus on the working class. They could determine the conditions. They could determine what kind of concessions they would give to the working class, and now they have a megaphone that doesn't have any sort of corporate sponsorships whatsoever, and is entirely funded by his own audience, and that is terrifying for a lot of people. And of course, one of the major issues that even Ken Martin was just talking to the Podjons about is this autopsy that I think we all know revealed a lot of information about the Democratic Party's allegiance to Israel's genocide and how that may have played a really negative role and a huge role in the loss that Kamala Harris withstood in front of an incompetent fascist by the name of Donald Trump.
Do you consider yourself a Democrat, or are you DSA? Like, what? Or do you hold to a political party?
I am. I'm organization agnostic, is what I say. I mean, I work most commonly with the DSA, but I work with the Democrats, and the DSA obviously filters their electeds through the Democratic Party's machine. But I work with the PSL as well, Party for Socialism and Liberation. I have. I work with anybody and everybody that wants to fight fascism in this country. I'm an anti-fascist first and foremost.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I was reading your bio, and what's interesting is, I'm Generation X. I guess you'd be either an alpha or millennial. I feel like Generation X, we're kind of the last captured generation, if that makes sense. Like, we are the generation that was pretty much like captured by the Reagan economy and sort of the Reagan culture. And really, we're either like Democrats or Republicans. I feel like I even am placing my own kidults who are your age and younger, but they're not captured. They are not necessarily they don't really have any fealty to a political party. They're more ideologically kind of free, right? And so they kind of look at politics in a different way. And so I think that is where this sort of intense critique of the Israel thing is coming from. It's where the, critique of the wars are coming from. Do you feel that the way that you think about Israel and Palestine, which weirdly enough is the way I think about it too, but I was lonely and alone in Generation X. Most of us didn't think that way. I was kind of on my own there. But do you think that the way that you're thinking about it that is the common parlance, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
they're left or right.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily the case, especially shortly after October 7. But now it's become the universal position. There's clearly a generational divide here as well. Obviously, for the generation 50 and above, they definitely have more loyalty to the most moral democracy in the Middle East, the only democracy in the Middle East, and that sort of narrative building has been very effective in capturing the attention of the older generation. But for people under the age of 50, it's gone. It's done. People look at this as a malign foreign actor that is causing tremendous instability, tremendous harm in the region, and people simply don't understand why we have to have this unlimited loyalty pledge to this foreign country. And it's also created a very interesting media environment, especially paired up with how much misinformation runs amok in a system where we don't really have consensus reality any longer, where a lot of people start making up their own minds on why. They start making up their own theories as to why people are so why our politicians are so unresponsive to our demands, and why they have this loyalty to the state of Israel. And that's where anti-Semitic conspiracies start manifesting left and right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think that is probably why you're not shameable on issues like. I mean, I noticed whenever you do an interview, people ask you about Hamas. Like, this is a thing that happens with a lot of people who are on the left, and then you're asked to justify is Hamas the worst thing in the world, and you're like, well, Israel's killed more people, and you kind of leave it there. I saw an interview where you did that. But I want to talk a little bit about Cuba, because this is the other issue where, for people my age, it's just baked into the cake that, Cuba is an authoritarian country. Jason and I actually went to Cuba as well. We're going to put up some video. I cut together a few of our stills, Jason. We went in 2017 when President Obama opened it up and allowed us briefly, you could go. And, I watched your Cuba documentary. It was very well done. You, Ryan Graham, and some others went down. And one of the things I noticed that is very different about the narrative that you were presenting and the narrative that I've always understood and even experienced in Cuba is that Cuba is an authoritarian place. Like, I don't know if you experienced this part of it, that there are men with long guns watching you. Like, you are on video cam all the time and being watched. Like, did you get that sense, or did you only get the sense of like the struggle, which is what you really well explained?
Yeah. No, as a matter of fact, in comparison to China, who I went to, who I visited, the place I visited last year. I would say that their surveillance state was virtually non-existent, and I actually had some independent journalists that work in Cuba, some of which have even been arrested by the Cuban government in the past. I asked them about their experiences in Cuba. They've worked all around Latin American countries, including in Venezuela, and they were saying that the Cuban government's surveillance initiatives are actually far less comprehensive than what you would see even in a place like America. Of course, the American surveillance state is much more insidious and nowhere near as hands-on, or at least it doesn't show itself until it needs to. But as far as the authoritarianism goes, I think these countries are, especially Cuba, it's 90 miles off the coastline of the United States of America, and it's been in a state of unlimited warfare by the largest hegemonic superpower since it, committed the ultimate crime of fighting and winning sovereignty and dignity for its people. The initial Cuban revolution wasn't necessarily a communist or a socialist revolution. It was an agrarian revolution. It was a national revolution. It was a social revolution. But it became a communist country after, a couple of years in to the initial revolution. And throughout that process, they've always wanted to maintain decent relations with America. They know they have to. And yet, America has had unbelievable revenge fantasies and chose to punish Cuba relentlessly and even push Cuba into the hands of the USSR in many respects. So having all of that in mind, I think I guess I understand why countries that are in a constant state of warfare, especially poorer and smaller countries, are going to engage in some level of repression because they're worried about instability born out of CIA interventions, quite frankly. And in comparison to many of these countries that I've read about and many of these countries that I've been to, I would say that the Cuban surveillance state or the Cuban authoritarianism is outright marginal, if not inconsequential even. Of course, there are still political prisoners and people that get arrested, but then I always pair that up with, my country, the United States of America. And I think about 3,500 college students, protesters that were arrested in the encampments that I personally visited, that I saw these kind people, these brave people that got not only violently apprehended by police forces and had their careers put in jeopardy, but also got physically attacked by counter protesters, like in the case in the UCLA encampments, where I watched counter protesters that don't go to UCLA storm the student encampment that was demonstrating peacefully in the quad and throw fireworks at these students, brutalize them with 2x4s, and even deploy lab rats. To this day, we don't know what they were trying to do, but there was a backpack. Someone brought a backpack full of rats and just released those rats into the student encampment. So potentially even biological warfare to say, to think that this is happening in Westwood, Los Angeles, California is unbelievable. And yet I experienced it. I saw it happen in real time. So I think it's not a justification for state repression in any way, shape, or form, but it's more so the reality that the United States of America does not need to engage in this level of repression as the dominant force around the planet, and yet it chooses to do so. And then, it feels insincere of me to go and criticize a country that is in a constant state of economic warfare and maybe even potentially direct hot war now, as Donald Trump is threatening, to turn around and say, oh, they're very repressive in comparison to the United States.
What's so interesting is that like all of the narratives that we all grew up in, that I grew up in my generation, and the boomers ahead of me grew up with, Donald Trump has destroyed them all just by the activities of our government, right? I mean, when we can't talk about repression, because as you said, the repression here is so stark. I mean, people here are being put in concentration camps and in private prisons, and there are gray vans driving up to people and throwing random people into the van because they have an accent. It's really hard to then make the argument because, like I said, when we went to Cuba, we saw the men with the Kalashnikovs, they were on we were like, oh, this is really weird. There's 3 TV channels. But then here, okay, there's not 3 TV channels, but like 3 billionaires control all the TV channels. So it's like the same things are happening. And I want to talk a little bit about this idea of exiles. I lived in Florida. You said your first stop was Miami. I don't know if you talked to a lot of exiles on your way before you got to Cuba, but they're hardcore. Like these were the landowners, the property owners that lost their property when this revolution took place. They're in Miami. They want their country back, and they are hardcore Republicans, right? Your family is from Thessaloniki, which is, to me, one of the fun things about that is where Paul was writing to the Thessalonians in Turkey. I'm quite sure that Bibi Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben-Gvir want to steal your family's country and take that part of it and put it in Greater Israel, as far as I knew. But so that's where your family came from. I know you're from New Jersey, but I'm just saying your family. We interviewed your uncle Jank, who I didn't know was your uncle until literally like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, my mind is blown. But you know, as yourself, Turkey is one of those countries, right? It's got a repressive government. Erdogan, he's a terrible person. And the exile community says, overthrow it, replace it with something different.
I don't,
thing with these
for the
Iranians,
record.
right? You don't. I watched that piece that you did on it. So talk about that.
Yeah, so I can't.
Too.
Yeah, so I can't go back to Turkey. My whole family's there. My uncle passed away last year, and I couldn't go to his funeral because there is a very serious threat that if I do go back to Turkey, I would go to jail. And I know that the American government would never demand my release, considering that, you know, the current American government is not exactly too fond of me either. I've been detained by ICE in the past. So I, in spite of all of that, there was a coup that took place that was facilitated. At this point, it's damn near assured that it was the CIA. There was a Muslim cleric by the name of Fethullah Gulen, who lived in the Poconos, and he was a CIA asset. And they had designed this parallel state inside of Turkey, and they facilitated a coup d'état. It failed, and at the time, I remember thinking I would much rather have the repressive government of Recep Tayyip Erdogan than an American puppet installed in his stead, because at least, like, regardless of how much Recep Tayyip Erdogan still is a servant of American empire, there is still some semblance of sovereignty there in the decision-making process, as opposed to a CIA-installed puppet like Fethullah Gulen. And I wasn't alone in this, because regardless of his unpopularity at the time, there was a referendum that took place in the immediate aftermath of this coup d'etat, where Erdogan was able to, by referendum, change the Turkish constitution to a presidential system so he could actually secure more power, and power that he is still using to this day. And that referendum gave him the popular majority vote. And the reason for why that happened was because people said, we hate Erdogan, but we would rather have Erdogan than someone who is a puppet of Western forces. This, of course, this calculation, of course, doesn't necessarily factor in the reality that Erdogan is a Western puppet himself as well. But still, there are sovereign decisions that he makes, as opposed to someone who would be directly in the hands of the American state.
Well, I mean, Iran is the same thing. I mean, there are Iranian exiles who were doing the Trump dance. They were so excited that we bombed Iran, that we've invaded Iran. You know, you talk about the Iran war a lot on your stream. Your generation is the one that's being asked to fight this. You know, they've now reinstalled, they have now, for the first time, made signing up for the draft automatic. Selective service will now just automatically scoop everyone up, including undocumented people in it. Are you worried about a draft?
Well, I'm 34. I'm about to be 35, so I feel like it's probably not going to get to me. But,
oh no, they put it up to 42, my friend. It's up to 42.
I've seen that, but also the other side of it, of course, is that you know, I'm a dangerous traitor. So if they must be really desperate if they're trying to get my old ass in there. Having said that, am I worried about a draft? Yes and no. I'm always worried about a draft, but there is also a sense of opportunity, because part of the reason why I think the American population has been unresponsive to all of our military adventurism overseas is because we have a draft right now. It's the poverty draft. Either people join the military because their family members were a part of it, and it's like a generational thing, or they do it because they want a semblance of upward social mobility that the military offers. In other countries, of course, these amenities are not really amenities at all. A free college education, or a college education that actually has the state paying you to go get educated, and free healthcare, are provided to every single citizen in most OECD nations unconditionally. Here in the United States of America, you have to sign the dotted line and sell your soul to the Pentagon so you can go wage wars, sometimes at the behest of petro-capitalist pedophiles, and other times at the behest of Israel, even, like we're seeing here in Iran. And that's the only way you can get these amenities, right? If there was a draft, on the other hand, it would force a lot of people to be more responsive, and force a lot of people's hand into actually taking action, like we saw in the Vietnam era. That's the reason why that's at least one of the reasons why there isn't really a massive, robust anti-war movement that's active in the streets right now. That, and of course, the unbelievable amount of suppression that both the Biden administration and the Trump administration put on the pro-Palestinian movement.
Yeah. You said in one of your posts that I think it was on your stream, that you voted for Kamala Harris. You called yourself a harm reduction voter. She may run again. There are lots of people who are teeing up, maybe Cory Booker and others. What case would need to be made to you to support a Democrat in 2028? What would you need to see them have on their agenda?
Well, I think they need to be anti-genocide. I think that they need to commit to holding Israel accountable, not just on arms embargo, but I want them to also hold Israel accountable for this genocide that they committed. This would also obviously include holding our American administrations accountable as well, and not just on the issue of Israel not abiding by the pre-existing laws like the Leahy Law that dictates that no arms trades can take place if a country is found in violation of human rights with the American arms that we're shipping and we're selling. And Israel certainly has been violating all rules in the rule book with the weapons that we've trafficked to Israel. So I also think that accountability is necessary on the domestic issues as well. I want an American president who will say, look, there's been far too much graft, far too much grifting in this country, and we are no longer going to let these corrupt people steal your money and engage in these sorts of schemes with impunity. We are going to hold them to account. Jon Ossoff, regardless of my criticisms of Jon Ossoff, has actually done a very convincing case on this issue in Georgia. He talks about this extensively, and I think that's going to be a major issue in the midterms and certainly in the upcoming election as well. I think that there is a lot of appetite in the base for someone who will actually say enough is enough. We have to hold these people accountable, because if we don't, if no one feels like there's any accountability, then they're going to continue committing crimes. And I think it's totally ridiculous that we've allowed the wealthy to get away with stealing our resources, our productive output, for far too long. And now they're more bold, they're more brazen with their rampant theft. So someone's got to put an end to that. So I hope that a Democratic politician can commit to that as well. And then on top of that, I want a politician that will uplift the working class, the material conditions of the working class. I want a politician that is truly anti-war, a politician that says we have spent far too much money on the military-industrial complex to wage wars overseas. It's time to focus on building this country. It's time to make America truly great. And that means we are going to focus on healing ourselves. We're going to focus on Medicare for all. We're going to focus on educating ourselves and become a competitive country in the global marketplace again. That means free college education for all, unconditionally, without any without having the need to sign your soul to the Department of Defense. And those are amenities that we absolutely could provide to every single citizen. We are the wealthiest nation on the planet, after all, the wealthiest nation that's ever existed in the history of the planet. So I find it unbelievable that Democrats can't come together and unite around this convincing message that would be very popular with not just the existing base of the Democrats, but very popular with the independents, and certainly even with Republicans too, regardless of how cult-like they are currently.
Yeah. Before I let you go, the Republicans seem to be uniting around a message that it is the left that is politically dangerous and that is using dangerous rhetoric to put Republicans' lives in danger around this White House Correspondents' Dinner. situation. They're trying to say, aha, this proves that, there really is a left-wing attempt to attack Republicans. They have put you in that. They've said that you are dangerous to them, that your rhetoric is dangerous. What do you make of this? Because it's stupid. I just played
It's
a
true.
whole 2-minute clip of, wait, go on. No, go on.
Yeah, no,
Say
it's
more.
true. I am the danger. We are the danger. And I need them to understand this. We're dangerous to the corporate bottom line. We're dangerous to profit seekers. And that's the only thing that our politicians and many in the media care about right now. So in some respects, they are correct. The danger is what might happen to profit seekers who want to paywall healthcare. And I don't mean like divine retribution or punishment of any sort. I mean the worst punishment of all, where they can no longer justify multi-million-dollar salaries. I am a danger to those who seek profit and put the interests of profit over the interests of people. And that's precisely the reason why they attack people like myself, because I'm beholden to no one but my own community. I'm beholden to no one but the American working class, which, as Zoran also says, is the majority in this country.
It is indeed. Hassan Piker, I hope you have your passport updated because the new one has Trump's picture on it. I don't know if you've talked about this yet on your show.
I have not seen it.
Look,
He's so handsome.
Lord, no, don't lie. Don't lie. See, now don't lie now. Your credibility was really good up until you said that. He is not. He is not handsome. He looks crazy, and I'm thankful that my passport does not expire for until the 2030s. Hassan Piker, I hope you'll come back. Thank you for being on, and I appreciate the conversation. Thank you very much. All right, take care. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. This is somebody that has been sort of portrayed as this sort of insane person, but I feel like you do have to hear people in their authentic.
All right, what did you guys think of that? Was that last line good?